Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Monday. Yeah, I know. Wasn't it just Sunday? Yeah, but that's the way it goes. Time moves in cycles, unlike history, which some say moves in a linear fashion. But we've got significant news flashes here today. Freedom in the Cloud was the first with the morning greetings, but we didn't get on till 8. In the Cloud got up there at 7:53. Freedom Lover at 7:54. Luttrell at 8 o'clock sharp. Luttrell wins the promptness, but Freedom Lover gets a huge coup because Freedom Lover got us not just on Rumble, but on YouTube as well. So, and here's Bathtub Liquor. Well, I mean, so let's just, instead of saying hi to everybody, let's get to why you came. Mike, is it true you're married and you're unavailable to women nationwide? That's why we've got all these people here first thing in the morning. No, I mean, Donald Trump. So yesterday afternoon, we spent an hour playing law, and we looked and studied and reviewed the indictment to talk a little bit about what an indictment is, what the elements of the offenses are, what needs to be proven, the limits on the defenses that Trump may raise, and the character of the evidence that the government is likely to seek to put on. And, bunch of you tuned in. I hope you found it useful. If you've got questions about the basic legalities of the indictment, check out yesterday's thread. We promised today we'd pivot a little bit to the politics of it all, and it looks bad. I mean, Trump did not, as Mike pointed out yesterday, it's not as though the Donald walked into the Russian embassy and said, "Have I got a deal for you?" Or that he said to the Cubans, "Ho, give me a casino and I'll show you the attack plans." You thought the Bay of Pigs was something. Wait till you see this oinker. Wink, wink, wink. That's not. None of that happened. He walked out of the White House undoubtedly believing, I think, that the election had been stolen and nurturing a grudge and a sense of aggrievement. He took with him documents, some of them confidential documents relating to invasion plans of other countries, and some relating to our ability to defend ourselves, apparently, against various attacks. When I first saw this, I thought, what in the world would be his motive? What in the world are you going to do with top secret documents? Paper the bathroom. Hey guys, you want to use the top secret potty? Well, you're going to have to take a polygraph about whether you read anything before you use the toilet paper. It just didn't make any sense. But then it started to make sense reading the indictment. You recall the discussions just after the election was called for Biden. Would Trump leave peacefully? And he was somewhat ambiguous about that. And then he upped the ante in the claim that the election had been stolen, got a bevy of lawyers and challenged the election results in a number of different states in some 62 or 63 pieces of discrete litigation. I think all but one or two were summarily dismissed. A couple made it past the pleading stages, but there does not appear, at least from the legal documents that I have seen, to be any evidence that would suggest that there was extraordinary fraud in the election such that the election was tipped in the direction of Joe Biden. That didn't stop the Donald from doubling down, and he called for people, to be present on January 6th in Washington on the day that Congress was to certify the electoral results. He spoke from the ellipse behind the White House to a crowd of adoring fans who he revved up, and many of them then headed up to the Capitol. There was a riot, and you've heard me talk ad nauseum about the legal consequences of that riot in terms of the various prosecutions for seditious conspiracy. Okay, so, Congress returns on the 6th after a brief hiatus. The building's cleared, the grounds are secured, they certify the election, and now, is Donald going to do a preemptive strike against some third country? Maybe we should get rid of him, the whispering comes. Well, so Trump takes some documents out, and he apparently had a meeting at Mar-a-Lago with a journalist and a couple other people. And he said, remember when General so-and-so was saying I was going to attack this country? Look at this. Look at his plan to attack that very country. He did that. And he's calling me the guy. I mean, that's sort of vanity politics on steroids. I don't know why he felt the necessity to do that. A more sober and reasoned analysis is the Pentagon has plans to attack just about everything. They probably have plans to seize your cat and take your bathroom in the event that you pose a threat to national security. That doesn't mean they're going to do it. People thought that Trump might have been unhinged. So, he's bragging about these documents. He's acknowledging that they're secret, but he's keeping them to himself. And so Mike raises the point yesterday, no harm, no foul. Okay, He took documents. The nation is awash in confidential documents. He talked about them. He showed them to some people, but he posed no risk to the national security and to the nation's welfare. So what's the harm? And I countered by saying, well, the offenses are actually offenses against the administration of justice. If you know that an investigation is pending, and you destroy documents, you alter documents, you place documents or items beyond the reach of investigators in an effort to frustrate them, that's a crime, obstruction of justice or corruptly interfering with an official proceeding. There are a number of different statutes that can cover it, and that's what Trump was charged with. So we badmintoned across that net for a while, and then came to the uncomfortable conclusion that wait. In these United States of America of ours, the FBI retains the right and routinely uses the right to lie to suspects in order as part of their truth-finding function. And so we say that deceit can be a useful investigative tool when the FBI is investigating a potential crime. If that's the case, then why can't deceit be a useful self-preservation tool when the FBI is talking to you? Pro tip here. If you ever get a knock on the door from the FBI, get a lawyer. Just period. Get a lawyer. There's no point in talking to those people because you don't know why they're there. They may tell you the truth. They may not. They may walk you into a prosecution over something that may not even seem to be that serious to you, but in the minds of a prosecutor somewhere becomes an offense worth indicting. And that's the question I think we want to land on today. Why this indictment and why now? Plenty of questions are being raised about it. What are you reading, Mike? I know you saw an interesting interview with Vivek Ramaswamy on CNN, was it?
I did. In severe conservative comments, yesterday's discussion did not make clear the attack plan is rumored to be from Chairman General Milley regarding Iran. He was apparently flaunting the idea that Milley was the threat to start a war post-election, not Trump.
Yeah, no, I think that thank you, severe conservative, for reminding me that I believe that is the name. I mean, certainly that's what I recall from the discussion at the time. Milley's not named, in the indictment, but looking back, and that was the public discussion, and that certainly would have been what Trump was talking about. Thank you for having a better memory than Mike and me combined.
Well, and the reason I wanted to bring up this stuff with Vivek is that how many candidates for Republican nominee for president are there at this point, Norm? We've got
maybe 6. I don't know.
There's more than that, but Tim Scott and Nikki Haley, blah, right? We've got Vivek Ramaswamy, but there's Ron DeSantis, and other than Trump,
Chris Christie, Asa Hutchinson has thrown his hat in the ring.
So it's just, it's amazing to me. We've got this is reminiscent in a way of 2016, right, where Trump was on a stage with it seemed like 20 other candidates for the Republican nominee, and none of them were really saying anything of import, except for the fact that we do have one Vivek Ramaswamy who is, I think, still polling at like 1% right now.
Oh, now come on, give the guy a break. I thought he got as high as 3% the other day.
But he's the only one saying anything worth listening to.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Consistently, and not just on one point, but across these sort of categories of what the American voter is attuned to. So I wanted to bring this clip in. It's only 37 seconds, but what prompted this is obviously the indictment of Trump, and what Vivek is communicating here, I'll let him speak for himself, but is that we are not asking that journalists, establishment media, are not asking the most fundamental question behind all of this. So I'm just going to let the audio play here.
Speak to us, Vivek.
I think it is shameful that I, as a competitor to President Trump in this race, have to ask questions that the media isn't asking. The job of the political media, if it has one job, is to hold the U.S. government accountable.
Yes, we know that.
And instead, we're doing the bidding. You're seeing the media doing the bidding of the U.S. government. No. Ask the question. Get to the bottom of what Biden told Garland and what Garland told Jack Smith. If the same shoe fit the other foot, you would not take their word at face value. Do not take their word now. Get to the bottom of it. Let's actually restore journalism in this country. That's what's actually missing, is getting to the truth.
Okay.
Well, Vivek, break it down. I don't know if you guys heard the echo I heard. That was not Vivek speaking from the bottom of a world-class tuna tin the size of the auditorium of CNN. It was a technical difficulty that we'll solve later. But Vivek's basically saying, look, timing is everything. And so how did this prosecution get decided upon? It wasn't a routine prosecution. Whose authority did Garland seek to appoint a special prosecutor? Did he go to Biden? What did Biden say to Garland? What did Garland say to Smith? What is the scope of Garland's inquiry? And is this a defensive gesture on Biden's part at a time when the FBI's director, Chris Wray, was stonewalling Congress and flirting with a contempt citation for failing to produce information on whether Joe Biden was receiving $5 million in bribes from a foreign government as vice president? To me, that's strange. I think Vivek's got a point. Who's going to ask these questions? And who, more to the point, we can ask them, Vivek can ask them, even CNN could try to ask them, but who would answer them? And can we compel answers? I mean, the best answer to an inconvenient question in political speak is dodging the issue or ignoring it. And Joe Biden is pretty good at that. His administration is pretty good at that. I don't know that I expect CNN to be asking these questions. I don't know that Fox News is. What's going on at Fox News lately, by the way? Since Tucker left, I don't hear anything about it.
No, the only thing I hear about Fox News is their constant move toward what I guess many people would want to call the middle, but has gone increasingly left. Since the department, I think Laura Ingraham was fired as well from Fox News. So I'm not even sure. It just looks more and more as though Fox News's impetus with firing Tucker was to sort of open the floodgates so that it could run cover for whatever the establishment wants to happen politically in 2024. Any voices that Fox News has it represents a liability, I guess, to the company because there is no way for them to break through.
So I get uncomfortable when I hear you say the establishment because I don't really
this
believe
is state, this federal bureaucracy, and I deal with it in my practice on a day-to-day basis. The issue that I talk about when I say the establishment is that you have these career salaried employees working in the federal government. In my world, it would be in state government or in an administrative agency. They wield incredible discretion. They pick and choose winners and losers. They make law up as they go. They apply law in an incongruent fashion as to every individual that is within the scope and purview of their jurisdiction, and that's what the issue is here. But we have it on such a deeper level within DC and the federal government that most Americans can't see that a lot of these positions don't actually turn over. And a key feature of the Trump presidency, Norm, was that he was unable to turn over the holdovers from the prior administration. It took him probably 30 months to fully install his cabinet and rid himself of the holdovers from the Obama administration.
Well, and even when you get rid of the principal, or even when you circulate or change the principal cabinet officers and their undersecretaries, there is the vast infrastructure of career civil servants who are almost impossible to dislodge, and who in theory, their expertise assures continuity from one administration to the other. But when a politician is elected with a mandate to produce change, that administrative bureaucracy can dig in and frustrate and retard that change. And one wonders of this Trump prosecution and the records case, whether this is the revenge of the deep state. We will hold our records. You will listen to us. You will eat your broccoli, and you will say thank you. Hey, sincere. I'm not sure what severe conservatives insincere thank you is. I was giving you a genuine thanks for reminding me about Millie. If you're giving me an insincere thank you, I'm sorry that you feel that way, dear. In court is the best answer. I don't remember. Well, I think what he's saying is the so-called perjury trap. You know that the government's got evidence of you leaving the house of another woman when you told your wife you were going to be out getting your badminton racket restrung, but yet that evidence isn't coming in. It's been seized illegally. You're on the stand. The government knows that it has information about your whereabouts. You know that the government knows. So the government says, "Where were you on the night of July 3rd, 2022? Isn't it true, sir?" "Oh, I don't remember." "Isn't it true, sir, that you were at Madame Lafarge's house getting more than your badminton racket restrung?" "I don't remember." I don't remember is generally a safe answer to a perjury trap, because basically what you're saying is the fact that you're asking me to assert or affirm or deny is one that I simply don't recall. However, it can be taken too far. "What is your name, sir?" "I don't remember." Hey, unless you've got dementia, that's perjury. and you're avoiding the issue. So, I think the best answer in court is always the truth. And I realize that makes me sound like a candy hiney. I'll be sensitive to our viewing audience as younger children. Ask your mommy and daddy what a hiney is, and ask them how adults say candy hiney. And if they don't, you'll know they're not being truthful with you. But that's okay, because mommy and daddy get to lie, just like the deep state does. Okay, severe conservative CNN journal thanking Vivek. Oh yeah, CNN's going to thank him. All right, they're going to they're going to thank him, take him, and then they're going to spank him when come. So anyhow, the politics of Trump, it remains, I think this is deeply divisive. I was speaking to a loved one last night who was very distraught about this and thought, Trump is going to get all these votes and things are just going to get worse in this country. And I think what my loved one was trying to say is that this is a profoundly delegitimizing event in the nation. Choosing to charge this man at this time can't help but further partisan divides in this country. If you're an ardent Trump supporter, of course it's a political attack. If you're a Trump hater, of course he obstructed justice and no one is above the law. But the Justice Department's charging decisions have to be better than that. And there's always a cost benefit and a utility to prosecuting.
Do they? Right? Because what we're saying is not something that is not obvious to those who are on that side of the fence, Norm. My question is ultimately with a president that is polling consistently sub 30 in terms of his approval rating, right? With an American population that is drawn into this emerging conflict overseas with Russia and a warming trade war with China, right? It doesn't seem as though the rules that we were used to or that we would abide are even being deployed anymore. I guess I bring a trial lawyer's naivete to this question, because I think that in law, in a court, it is the jury's role to determine what the facts are, and the advocates present evidence that they think proves the facts that they are seeking to prove. The judge rules on whether things are admissible. And so, when I look at something like the Trump indictment, I say to myself, if those facts as alleged are true, he will be convicted. And yet I do that with a profound sense of, is it worth the wick? Is it really worth it? I do that with the same sense of sort of disgust that I have at the United States government's decision to charge the Proud Boys with seditious conspiracy. It's funny, I was talking to one of the prosecutors in that case over the weekend about some issues that have arisen on whether I have a conflict representing two now of the Proud Boys in the post-verdict proceedings. I don't think we do, but the court will have to decide. And so as I was talking to this fellow, I don't want to mention his name because I don't want to damage his career prospects. I said, I respect you and I trust you. Your client, however, your client's a piece of shit. And I don't really like the decisions that it made with respect to the Proud Boys. I don't like the decisions that it made with respect to Donald Trump. And I guess I want it to be better. And I think that that's why I had confidence in the Public Integrity Unit at one point in its decision about whether to charge public officials. It was charged with making a decision about whether the decision to charge was worth whatever consequences would flow from that. And in this case, the profoundly delegitimizing aspect of the Trump prosecution, to me, isn't worth it on these charges. Well, it's not, man, I feel like we're making the case for that has been made in an unclear but consistent way. I see a lot of criticism across the board about the relative age. And Norm, I know you won't take offense to this because you'll take it with the sentiment it's intended, but our politics are run largely by people who don't really have much ambition left, right? And you think about Joe Biden.
Are you referring? I mean, I'm plenty ambitious. I was up at 5 o'clock this morning preparing.
How old is Joe Biden right now? Because I'm looking at the comment on the screen. Did Trump, when first elected, have the power to do to Hillary what's being done to him? Crooked Hillary. Second, how come no one has called for Biden to take the same mental acuity test Trump took? And that is just sort of again the symptom of what I'm talking about. there is no question that Biden has reached the end of his political aspirations. He has ascended the mountaintop in terms of presidency. He's had a career.
He's not reached the end of his political aspirations. He's reached the end of his sentience. But yeah,
well,
yeah.
but I mean, but the same thing. No, I mean, there isn't a whole lot of road left for Joe Biden, and to that end, it seems as though this is all happening on his watch, but really he's not watching. I don't know if he's competent to watch. I highly doubt that. But even so, he's not really there to make any decisions that are designed to make his constituents happy, right? He's not there to looking at what new precedent he might be setting because, God forbid he be around to have to answer for that. He won't be.
So let me, if I were a pollster, I would ask my staff to try to design a poll to test the following proposition. Prior to the indictment of Donald Trump, did any significant percentage, was there a significant percentage of the voting population who believed that Trump was fundamentally an honest man? And so isolate those people if there are any. So you've got yes, X percent yes. Among those who answered yes, did any of them change their opinion after the indictment? And find out what that is. Then a parallel question is, among those who thought he was dishonest, how many of those nonetheless intended to vote for him? And among the undecided, does the indictment increase support for Donald Trump? Because in a paradoxical way, I'm more inclined to vote for him after the indictment than I was before, only because I want to say to the Justice Department, back off, Jack. I mean, this is ridiculous. You're prosecuting in the J6 context 2.5, 3 years after a riot, people who attended an event that got out of hand, and they are guilty of anything of misdemeanors, a few of them felonies, but you're pursuing them as though there's another civil war at stake. You're creating the war you're trying to prevent with these overt political prosecutions. So query, Mike, how do Trump's lawyers get this in front of the jury? These issues. I think these are classic nullification arguments that are unlikely to see the light of day.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm not sure how they do that. What I am sure of is that we're going to see at least 2 more indictments before we go to the ballot box in November.
The Georgia case, and you share my belief that he'll be indicted on J6 as well.
Yep, absolutely. I think he'll get a charge of seditious conspiracy in connection with the events of January 6, 2021, the same that Enrique Tarrio, Joe Biggs, Zachary Real, you could name the whole list of Proud Boys there, the same way that they all did. And he's also going to be charged in connection with, some allegations of federal election interference for whatever phone call he had with, I believe it was the Georgia Secretary of State at the time, perhaps. And it's just reminiscent of the phone, the perfect phone call, the beautiful phone call that he had with, I think, who was it? Was it Zelensky?
It was a top Ukrainian. I think it was Zelensky. Yeah, it was perfect.
Reminiscent.
We're hearing from a new chatter. Toa heard an interesting theory. Biden will pardon Trump and also himself, his family, and key Biden crime family facilitators. He needed this to give cover for his own pardoning.
I think it's definitely leverage. I mean, certainly I gave a very myopic view of Joe Biden, and certainly he has a family and at least one son that we're aware of that is, will outlive him if crack doesn't get the better of him. But, I say that in jest, but, it certainly does appear like it's political leverage, right? Biden is as dirty as it comes. And I think that everybody in the country that is, that sides with us or sides with the notion that, there is not much Trump could do short of something very obvious and clear that would affect, vote tallying for him. And for that reason, if Biden wants to have any sort of stable life after November of 2024, that he'll need as much leverage as possible in order to
maybe photography. Do I want a country where everything is decided by Trump? No, never had one. Wasn't one in 2016, 2020. I don't even think he aspired to one. The institutions held. That's why he failed in every court case. That's why Congress was able to certify the election. That's why he's being prosecuted. The separation of powers and federalism is a beautiful thing. It diffracts power, and it keeps those who think they know better from telling us what to do, and gives us a zone wherein we can make our own decisions. I'm all in favor of chaos. I don't want a dictator. I don't want a dictatorship of the woke. I don't want a dictatorship of the bloke, meaning Donald Trump. Having said that, I am troubled by this political prosecution, because I think when politics plays a role in the decision to prosecute, justice is denied and perhaps demeaned. Hey, what's this about the end of law school and the legal industry? And do I have hope?
Hold on, some Rumble comments here. Matthew Kyle says, if you guys start to grow a tree and branch off and host multiple podcasts, I want to be a part of Law and Legitimacy, the sports pod right up my alley.
Well,
Legitimacy. I love that. And then he also asks, you guys think if Hunter Biden died of a crack overdose that they would tell us the truth of how he died? Who cares?
Yeah.
Who really cares? Okay, yeah, let's pivot over here to was it the SEC or was it the
let's just forget the AI in law school. We have very few minutes, I think. I want to respond to a topic that Bathtub Liquor raises. I would like to see Barnes give his view and see what Norm says to that. I see a little bit of chatter online that, trying to link Bob Barnes and I. Bob Barnes is a prominent podcaster and talking head and lawyer based out of the West Coast. Bob and I don't think you're going to see Bob and I on the same ticket anytime soon. And I don't think you're going to see us as part of one another's mutual admirations club. Our paths crossed in the Alex Jones case, and we had fundamental disagreements about how to handle things. I don't want to take a position publicly on anything that transpired between Bob and I. I have respect for Bob, but I don't think, Bathtub Liquor, that you should expect me to be invited to appear with him. And I don't think you'll see us inviting him to appear with us. So I just want to put that one to bed. That's a marriage that ain't going to happen. So, but
oh well
is right. AI, end of law school. I mean, I saw something online the other day that I had to chuckle about. AI, Chat GPT is going to put lawyers out of business because more and more lawyers are turning to Chat GPT to draft complex contracts. Tell that to the guy who appeared in front of the United States District Court for the Southern District last week or the week before and had to sing for his law license after trying to explain to the judge why he thought it was a good idea to let Chat GPT do his legal research. You'll recall that in that case, ChatGPT made cases up, made legal doctrines up, made it look and sound like it was real law, but it wasn't. And so this lawyer plugged in the search query to ChatGPT and printed out what ChatGPT gave it, and is likely potentially to lose his license or suffer serious disciplinary factors. I've run my name in ChatGPT to get my biography and found that it was wrong about things that you shouldn't just be wrong about in a world of facts. That got my year of birth wrong, where I went to college wrong, where I went to law school wrong. It had me clerking for a federal judge I never even heard of. So I have no confidence in ChatGPT and its ability to discern facts in the real world or to provide legal analysis. So what's all this talk, Mike, about AI taking over the law, especially through ChatGPT?
Consider the source, and I think that's true in just about everything you'd want to take seriously, but do consider the source of non-attorneys talking about something that will replace attorneys or the legal profession. That's number one. I do take heart in the fact that there are what I call involuntary power users of law firms, those that are perhaps serial entrepreneurs and spend lots of money, week over week, month over month, year over year for attorneys. And they may be inclined to suggest that there are ways to reduce their cost basis via legal, a la AI, right?
Oh, well, I can just see this agreement between two high-tech companies. We spent $5 million last year on lawyers reviewing our contracts. Let's both agree to be bound by whatever ChatGPT does, and we'll do that for $100,000 each. Okay, that's fine. They can do that. but there's no guarantee that they won't be bound by bullshit. And if parties can agree, they could just decide to flip a coin. They could decide to consult the neighborhood drunk. They can decide to go to a homeless shelter and panel 12 people on detox and say, what do you think the answer is? But Chat GPT is not reliable, folks. And I'm not saying that because I care necessarily about holding on to the legal market. I just look at it and I say, for all its promise, it bears no relationship to truth in the objective world.
No, it doesn't. And that's part of the issue here, is that primarily as a transactional attorney, the value that I bring to the client is, in trust and in the relationship and in context. And it's difficult for me to sit here and listen to the talking head on, Squawk Box talking about, what sorts of applications there are for AI. And that talking head did acknowledge, Norm, that criminal defense attorneys need not be concerned with this. But therein lies sort of the antithesis to the entire argument that AI would somehow hedge against attorneys, the legal industry, and the legal field. The legal industry is going to destroy itself before AI destroys it. And I mean that from a perspective of how legal education has been shifted and diluted with other doctrine, with foreign doctrine, and students looking to, I guess, take an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution while also saying that they're, participating in a systemically racist and corrupt society. Right. So I think that the legal field has plenty of problems endemic to its own existence, but I don't think that AI presents a realistic threat to my ability to counsel or to even use the basic parameters of AI as something that would make perhaps the rudimentary work in my practice easier to get done or more efficient. But I still have that obligation, the same way that you, Norm, have an obligation with any of your paralegals. Anything produced before it goes to a court, before it goes to a client, before it's packaged as a deliverable, before it's even used as a component in a larger thing, needs to be reviewed.
So, Mike, I'd like to issue a challenge to you. I'm not a transactional guy. I mean, I don't draft contracts. I go to court. I argue things. That's what I do. I argue with my own shadow all the time. Oh, that guy's ugly. Oh, wait, it's me. Well, so ordered, stipulated. I imagine that in the course of a week, you might be asked to take a look at an agreement for a simple exchange. Put the question that you are asked to, and maybe use a case where you've already drafted an agreement. Put that question to ChatGPT and then compare ChatGPT's work to your own. That would be the acid test, in my view. I'd love to see the results of that.
I will. I'll work on that. I can't promise when I'll actually produce something, but I'll try to do it the next week or so, and we'll definitely revisit this topic and see where it goes. I do think that the last thing I'll say on this topic before we break is that legal research via Lexis, Reuters, Westlaw, that is, any of the major ones. I don't see a huge difference in an attorney needing to generate search terms to find existing precedent within these databases and what the promise of GPT is supposed to be for attorneys, except for the fact that GPT has already been shown to literally make things up that don't exist.
No kidding. No kidding.
So if you're an effective legal researcher, you already are taking advantage of the best of what Chat GPT would have to offer in terms of search terms, jurisdiction, precedent, support, propositions, counter support, counter propositions applied to the facts, and then distinguish between what you have currently on your plate. These aren't things that Chat GPT is going to be able to do at all. Not right now, and I'm not saying in the future it won't, but then ultimately, Norm, why is it doing it? And it can't answer that question. Only us as sentient humans can answer the question of why.
Well, we'll get to that on another day. I got to run, folks. I have a court appearance at 2:00, and I'm about 300 miles from where I need to be. So I need to get in the car and drive. We're teeing up a rape case, and the question presented in the motion today is whether the state can put on evidence in this case about the characteristics of rape victims. My position is they can't. The jury's going to decide whether this was consensual or not. All an expert can do is testify about what complainants do. They can't testify about whether the complaints are true. That's for the jury. Well, I'll report to you on how that goes. Busy week for me. I'll be in DC one day this week, Minneapolis for a couple days. But Mike and I will be here with you each day at 8:00. We look forward to talking to you later.
Sounds great, Norm. Thank you for your time this morning. And thank you, everybody, again, for joining us yesterday for the Sunday special. For those of you that are joining us live this morning or maybe hearing this podcast later, if you haven't looked at that, we spent about an hour talking about the fundamentals of the Trump indictment yesterday. Go back, give that a listen, give that a share. And if you do anything today, give @Pattis Podcast a follow on Twitter. We are trying to grow that platform to 2,000 followers. Norm, get on it. I'll see you later.
You will.
All right. Bye.
Bye.